All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Buckball Podcast. I'm your host, JT Westbury, and as always, I got me a guest on. This time today, it's my good friend Jameson Lee. James, go ahead and say hey to the people. Tell them what you got going on.
Yeah, man, this is it's great to be on the show. Great to be able to come on here and talk about our beloved Buccaneers.
Playoff-bound Buccaneers.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, it's a good thing we got that Mike Allstott.
Mm-hmm.
But no, it's definitely that time of year where it's kind of like, too often we kind of are like, well, playoff hopes are over. And
Yeah, what are we playing for now?
Yeah, and college football's coming to an end, and it's like, all right, we're dwindling down to the end here, and once again, we're not in the playoffs, and I mean, we'll get to more of that later on, but it's just, I'm starting to feel like it's just coming to an end, just football season as a whole, and it's not a good feeling.
Yep, as always, it drags, the offseason drags, even though the NFL is a 365, day a year thing, it still doesn't matter. The offseason is the offseason, and it drags, and the season always goes by so fast. And I always end up regretting that I didn't watch more football than I did, even though I watch enough now. I constantly cancel plans for it, but I always end up regretting, like, man, I should have stayed up to watch that Delaware State versus Minnesota Golden Gophers. Just something, but that seems to happen all the time. So let's go ahead and talk about this Ravens game. You had a chance to watch all of it, right?
Yeah. I saw most of it. And I mean, just like, most of the other games, I mean, we had a chance to win. I mean, I seen there was some encouraging signs, but just the same old stuff kind of coming back to bite us. It's kind of been the theme of the year.
Yeah.
But I mean, the Ravens are a good team. I mean, they got a great defense. Obviously having Lamar Jackson in there the last couple of weeks. Not a high-powered offense, but they're going to try to grind it out and hold the ball and try to break a couple plays, pound it for 3 yards, and then try to get Lamar Jackson to break one loose.
Yeah, and the thing when I was watching this game, and so like the beginning of the game, obviously we had some missed opportunities. Chris Godwin was probably a sure touchdown. I believe it was like 2nd and 7 or something like that. But that was a for sure touchdown. I mean, I know it's in the rain, everything like that, but Jameis's receivers were letting him down a lot. And another thing too is we were hanging around with the Ravens in the beginning, and the defense is playing well, but I felt like they were trying to throw more in the beginning, and we couldn't put enough points on the board to take advantage of that. And when the Ravens did actually get a lead after halftime, that's when they started to sit on the ball, and we couldn't do anything. And I even said this on Twitter. Any other quarterback, there would have been at least 6 sacks or more in this game.
Yep.
Easily. I mean, he was getting Carl Nassib, Vita Vea, Levante David, everybody, and Riley Bullough dropped a interception right in his hand. It's just missed opportunities. You can't settle for threes against a team who, if they get a lead, they have the ability to grind the clock. And, things just weren't working. And I know the conditions weren't right either, but that's just what happens. When the conditions aren't right, you got to be able to run the ball, which we ran the ball pretty well, I thought.
Yeah, especially for, a team like that, and in my opinion, they're probably the best defense we played all year. I mean, we played some other teams with some good defenses. Saints defense has kind of, stepped up, but I really like the Ravens defense, as a football fan, just like watching them. So, coming into the game, I was kind of, I wasn't real confident. Jameis has been playing well. And we had kind of had a good little run going in the last couple games, but they're tough to go up against. So they, once they got a lead, they did their thing, and we just couldn't get it done.
Yeah,
But it's definitely encouraging sign. Jameis, he performed, pretty well against a defense of that caliber. Like you said, there were some drops, there were some missed opportunities where some plays could have been made. But
it's just this red zone offense, man. They can't do anything. They have to score points off explosive plays, or once they get down within the 20-yard range, they can't do anything. The only touchdowns they get is if Jameis Winston scrambles, and that's not always a recipe for success, even though it's been working.
That has a lot to do with not having a very good run game. And I feel like every time I've been on the show, we kind of harp on this. Peyton Barber has done, what he can do, but let's be honest, our run game has not been very good. And I think if we look at I'm not sure what exactly we rank in rush offense, but it's got to be in the bottom 5 of the NFL.
We're averaging like 90 yards a game. I think it's
right.
like
has Peyton Barber even hit a 100-yard game this year? Maybe one.
Yeah, but that's I'm going to say he has. I'm pretty sure he has, but just the fact that you even have to think about it is almost telling.
Yeah, and it's been bad, and it's not his fault. There was times this year the offensive line hasn't been, playing very good. But it's hard, especially when you get in the red zone and the field's more condensed. If you can't run the ball, it's going to make it much more difficult to score points if you can't run the ball in a condensed field, and you can't just line it up and just pound it like the Ravens can do. So that, going into the offseason, I feel like that's one of our glaring issues. We're going to have to, I know we picked, running back last year, still kind of trying to, we get to see him a lot this year.
They don't even run him. This is what pisses me off about this offense. I understand, like, he has to get some type of confidence, though, man. I understand the coaching staff knows more than we do. Obviously, they know why he's not on the field, but every time he's on the field, they're throwing him a swing pass. That just how am I a fan? I don't get paid any money to see that. You know what I mean? The defense sees it, and it's just aggravating to me. We have nothing left to play for, really. So these next 2 games, I think Ronald Jones should get at least split carries with Peyton Barber.
Yeah,
and I think do that because he's loyal to Jacquizz Rodgers.
Yeah, I think some people will say, well, Dirk's coaching for his job right now. I think he's toast. Dirk Cutter is not going to be coming back, and I'm not disappointed about that. I think it's just time to move on. Not a bad guy, but we saw what the offense was like when he was calling plays, and what the offense was like when Monken was calling plays. And I feel like the offense had been better when Monken was calling plays for the most part.
They still say that Monken's calling plays, but I don't think so.
Yeah, no, I don't think he has been the last couple games.
If he is still calling plays, Dirk Cutter has a heavy hand in how the game plan should be. You know what I mean? So
yeah. Well, he's on his way out the door. I think at this point, obviously Jameis is playing for a job. I think he's really, obviously he's played good the last couple weeks. So I think Jameis has proved enough, that you got to bring him back for at least one more year. You at least got to pay for that 1-year option to keep him for that one more year, and with a new coach coming in, whoever that may be, so that he can get 1 year with a new coach, new system, and just see how it works out. But yeah,
the funny thing about it is, go ahead.
We talked early in the season, before Mike Smith got fired. Actually, I think it was the week before Mike Smith got fired.
Yeah, it was
It might have
before
been
the
it was the
Atlanta
week
game.
before the Atlanta game. Yeah, about Mike Smith and Cutter. Kind of being on his feet, getting a little hot. So obviously, he's gone. But finished out the season I think it was DeMar Dotson that said, when they asked him something in the locker room, he said, it's every man for himself at this point.
Yep.
Which sounds selfish, but you're out there playing for your
It's
job.
not.
So
He's just saying what everyone's thinking.
yeah, I mean he's just telling the truth. He's just being real. I mean, you can say you're playing, trying to win for the team, but at this point, hey, you either got a job next year or you're getting let go. So I've heard, I've heard rumblings about, them possibly looking at Mike McCarthy, going into next year, and
Just
I
about
don't know
every
how I
head
feel about
coaching
that.
name is going to be linked to the Buccaneers here for a while.
Right.
I've heard Dan Campbell, I've heard John Harbaugh, I've heard Jim Harbaugh, Mike McCarthy, um, Fangio. I've seen that some places, which I wouldn't mind Fangio as far as the defense goes, but I don't know. Usually, whenever there's you split from head coach, you go for the opposite of how that guy was. So you went from Lovie Smith to a real, like, he was real kind of a stale personality, to Dirk Cutter, who's a real straightforward guy, doesn't BS. And what's their next thing going to be? Just whatever the opposite of Dirk Cutter's personality is. That's the next coach we're going to get, because that's just usually how it goes.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm
Man,
sure the rumors are going to be swirling,
Mhm.
going into the off season and all that. But I'm interested to see, what they do this week, and see how they come out. Because I mean, obviously, I still feel like we got a chance to win. This week.
Yeah, they haven't
Last
been
time.
bad. They've had a lot of close games, man, and that's the whole thing with Dirk Cutter, is these close games. These teams come out in second half and they make an adjustment to the offense, and the offense just can't make adjustments on the fly to whatever the defense is throwing at them. For instance, Jameis Winston had 157 yards passing in this game. There was probably at least 5 drop balls. I want to say at least 6. So he should have been almost 18 or 19 of 25, and he should have had almost 300 yards easy, like very, very easily. So, I mean, it's not all Dirk Cutter's fault per se, but I mean, your ass is on the line, and the defense is shutting you out in the second half. You can say the players aren't performing, but in the end, that always comes down on coaching. Why is it that they're not performing? Why is it that you can't make adjustments? Why is it always the other team that finds a way to kind of out scheme per se? Like, that's gonna be his downfall. That's just the way it is. I mean, they took away Cameron Brate, who only had 1 catch for 9 yards, and he was targeted, twice. So they took away James's favorite target. And the offensive line, if you add in that you're possibly going to be paying Donovan Smith next year, let's just say an average of 10 million, you're talking about Donovan Smith, Ali Marpet, and Ryan Jensen. That's almost 30 million, or probably 30 plus million, just from the left to the center of your line. And they're not playing well. And then you add in the fact that you have Caleb Benenoch, who's been a complete turnstile. DeMar Dotson hasn't played bad, but let's just be honest, he's not going to be here much longer. So now you're pigeonholed into most likely having to take a tackle or a guard with your first draft pick. And then not only that, you don't even know if that's going to work, because nothing's a sure thing. And then this offense is such a vertical offense. Every route is a 10 to 12-yard route, come back, deep fly, everything like that. You can't have those kind of routes with this kind of offensive line. And I don't think that they're not that talented. I just think that they're not playing well together. Do you see that too?
Yeah. I mean, obviously, we've had a couple different combinations this year on the offensive line. I'm actually a big fan of Ryan Jensen. I think he's one of our better offensive linemen, if not the best offensive lineman. He's done some, he's got some stupid penalties, but that's something that just comes with that's something that just comes with the attitude, comes with the nastiness.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I'll take that. I'll take, somebody getting a 15-yard penalty for defending their quarterback, rather than somebody that's just gonna, kind of not be aggressive and just get ran through, and then when his quarterback gets driven into the ground, just stand there and not do
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah. Ryan Jensen's always
You know,
looking for work. That's for sure.
yeah, I'll take that any day. So and I don't have a problem investing money in the offensive line. I like Marpet as well. I mean, he hasn't played great, but I think a lot of that, like you said, they're not playing great together. Guards and tackles have to have chemistry. They got to be the if you look at the better offensive lines in the NFL, not all of them, but there's a good amount that you'll see guards and tackles that have been together for a couple years. Guards and tackles have to build chemistry. Guards and tackles have to work together, for a pretty decent amount of time to kind of get a feel for each other and how they're going to pass off, defensive line games and stunts and, all that kind of stuff. So if you're playing with a different guy next to you every year, it's kind of hard to build that chemistry with him. And DeMar Dotson has been there for a while, but
The longest
he's always
tenured
kind of
Buck.
been like that. DeMar Dotson's always kind of been like that sixth man, like on the line. Like, he just kind of came. He just somewhat recently, came into that starting role. So he's like, he's somewhat solid, but he's not great. But he's not terrible. But he's
He's
not a guy
only
that you're going to go pay big money.
yeah. Well,
So if
he's
he
only
wants,
had. I'm sorry. He's only had one season where he played a full 16 games too.
right.
So that's also the wear and tear that he hasn't even played a full 2 or 3 seasons collectively where he's been fully healthy, and that's not a knock on him. That's just something that happens.
Yeah, and I'm all about investing money into the offensive line. I mean, you got money under the cap, go get your lineman. Um, I like, I don't mind signing offensive lineman for agency. If they can get them, you know, that's just going to help Jameis' development even more. Because he's pretty good at avoiding sacks, but he's a lot better when he's standing in the pocket and doesn't have to be running all over the place and feeling like he's about to get sacked.
Yeah,
Um,
that's what
so
worries me. That's what worries me is because, I mean, as good as Jameis has been playing, and it also kind of worries me, but I'm also happy that he's doing it. But he's been playing conservative football, and that's something that we've always said. If the play's not there, just take the check down. And he's been doing that a lot. But I think that he's been playing really conservative as of lately. Because I mean, if you go back and watch the All 22, there's people wide open. But Jameis is feeling pressure before it's ever even there. And that's just something that happens when you're repeatedly having to run for your life or you're having to bail out. Yeah, he's the most accurate quarterback in the NFL on the run, and he's got a lot of touchdowns in the red zone for that reason. But I mean, that should be something that you have to do 3 or 4 times a game, not 3 or 4 times a drive. You know what I mean? So
right, yeah, that's a big thing. And I think we keep Jensen and Marpet in place. They'll probably keep Smith. I'm not really a huge fan of Donovan Smith. He's been like he's all right pass protection, but run blocking, I'm just not really a huge fan of him. To be
a,
honest, to
lot,
be
a lot
paying
of a
him that
lot of people have said it's his worst year.
kind of money, I wasn't a big fan of him when we drafted him. I watched him at Penn State. I wasn't overly impressed, but he didn't have a good rookie year. He hasn't been terrible, but he hasn't been worth $10 million a year, in my opinion. So still paying him off that kind of big contract. I wouldn't, if I think he's a guy that maybe you keep him in place for one more year, kind of try to get some more development out of him and see what happens. But definitely got to pick up more pieces on the offensive line. I don't know if you gotta, we'll have to see how the draft class shakes out. You might not have to get one in the first round, but in the first 3 rounds, you probably got to get a guard or a tackle.
Yeah, a lot of people are
At least
saying,
one.
Jonah Williams from Alabama or Dalton Risner, guys like that.
Yeah, that's definitely something they got to address, and that's something that you kind of as far as that's something also kind of got to keep an eye on Alex Kappa. See how he starts to develop and what's going. Are they gonna they're gonna play him at guard? Is he gonna play tackle? So I know he's got a little bit. He got a little bit of playing time this year. Obviously, he didn't look as good as Marpet did in his rookie year.
No.
But a guy coming from a small school like that, they're expected to take some time to adjust to the speed of the NFL. Marpet was a guy that came in and played pretty well right away. So I do like Alex Kappa though. It's going to take him a little bit of time to develop, but he's another good piece there. But when you got a new coaching staff coming in and you got a quarterback in a contract year, you can't keep having problems on the offensive line, and
Every
that's
single
affecting
year.
every year, and that's affecting your quarterback's performance. So you don't fix the offensive line. Jameis Winston has another up and down year. You let him go. He goes into another franchise and just plugs in to whatever franchise picks him
Yeah,
up, and they already got pieces around him.
I love that. I love how Bucs come to Tampa, don't work out, go somewhere else, actually get time to develop and thriving stars. See Bradley McDougald, who is he was being mentioned for the Pro Bowl. See Michael Bennett, all these
Yeah,
guys.
it's happened quite a bit.
Yeah.
Quite a
Yeah.
bit
And
over the last 30 years. It's happened quite a bit.
Yeah. Doug Williams just goes and wins a Super Bowl.
Benny Testaverde had a pretty decent career. Steve Young, I think he had a pretty decent career. There's been quite a few guys. But yeah, you can't let Jameis Winston go. So if you ain't gonna sign him to a big contract, you at least have to pick up the option this year, and we'll just see what coach they bring in. But it was definitely an encouraging sign seeing him play the way that he has, switching over to more of that conservative kind of style, because we really haven't seen that. We really haven't seen him check down hardly at all since that 2013 year at Florida State. I mean, that year he checked down a pretty decent amount. I mean, they made big plays. They were a great offense. But then the next year, he had a solid offensive line in 2013. 2014, he did not have a solid offensive line. Tried to force a lot of plays and threw a lot of interceptions.
Played hero ball. Yep.
Yep. So, I mean, I like it. I like the conservative style of play, and that's just going to further develop, his game to kind of make it a little bit more natural.
Did you see the bomb to Evans though? When he that was like the iconic Jameis Winston play. The bomb to Mike Evans where the pocket collapsed. He looks like he's going to get sacked 2 times. Rolls out of the pocket to his left, throws the ball right-handed across his body. What is it, like 60 yards, and hits Mike Evans right in stride.
Oh yeah, that's vintage Jameis Winston, Mike Evans right there. That's a duo that you need to keep together.
Like, no why can't he do that with Deshaun Jackson?
I don't know what his deal is, but I'm pretty positive.
Dude, I just don't think he fights for the ball. I just think that if the ball isn't right where it's supposed to be, I don't think like on the money in the breadbasket, however you want to say it, I just don't think he fights for the ball, man. And I'm not no professional wide receiver or anything, but I mean, that's why I prefer Chris Godwin over Deshaun Jackson, because at least when the pocket's breaking down and the quarterback has to throw a ball, sometimes it's not perfect. Godwin tries to fight for the ball. Jackson's like, well, a little bit over my head. That's it. Back to the huddle.
Well, Jackson's always been kind of a prima donna type, stereotypical wide receiver. He ain't gonna play hurt. Mm-hmm. He ain't gonna fight for the ball over the middle. No. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you get what you get. He's got blazing speed, but that's you get what you get. I think his career in Tampa has pretty much come to a close.
Well, he just sold his house. He just sold his Tampa home.
I don't think his injury. He hadn't been injured. In my opinion, he sat out the last couple weeks because he wanted to. He's pretty much done in Tampa.
Well, he had something on his thumb, but I don't know. Who knows?
He did. He had but really it was a minor injury. You know what I'm saying? If you really want to play through that, you could play through that. But he don't want to be in Tampa anymore. So goodbye to Sean Jackson.
So let me go back to the game real quick. So we kind of got away from this. But like we're talking about, this game was close because it was 9-10 at the half, right? So coming out of halftime, Baltimore goes 10 plays, 78 yards, take 5 minutes off the clock. They made it 17-9. Next possession, the Bucs go 5 plays, and they have to punt. That's when they get that lucky break when Cyrus Jones touched it pretty much in the red zone, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Bucs have 4 plays for 5 yards, which some were because of penalties. Adam Humphries caught that ball, and they called offensive pass interference on Mike Evans, which even Mike Pereira said was BS. Anyways, they have to settle to make it 12-17. Still a close game. So Baltimore next has a 15-play, 7-minute drive that was only 38 yards, which was set up by a nice kick return. They get a field goal. But the thing there was they took 7 minutes off the clock. The game was Jameis had receivers dropping balls. He was running for his life, and then Jameis Winston does what Jameis Winston does, and we haven't seen him do it in a while. He threw that horrible interception to Marlon Humphreys, and people were just all over Twitter blowing up, "Oh, the real Jameis is back." It was like, come on, man. He's played almost 3 games of quality football, and his receivers are doing nothing for him today. And yes, he made one bad throw, but people. I swear to God, it was like people were waiting. It's like they already had it like typed up. That way, as soon as Jameis Winston threw the interception, all they had to do was hit enter. They're just waiting to post that.
Yeah,
which it was a stupid interception, but still.
But anytime you're playing in a game, a rainy game like that, receivers, it's not ideal for a deep passing offense. You got to be able to run when it's raining and it's muddy and it's dirty, especially when second half, field starts to get tore up. It's been raining the whole game. You got to be able to run the football. You know what I'm saying? I mean, the weather conditions definitely played into Baltimore's favor.
Yeah.
But hey, Jameis is Jameis. When the game's on the line, or it was kind of desperation there at the end. He's going to try to make a play. He's going to try to make a play. He's going to be that guy. He's going to be that Brett Favre type guy that's just going to throw it out there and try to make something happen. But there's in the Bucs fan base is mostly made up of Florida fans, right? So you got your state of Florida people, the state of Florida college football fans. So a lot of Miami fans are Dolphins fans. So you got some Miami Bucs fans.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of Gator fans are Bucs fans.
Oh yeah.
Most all Gator fans are Bucs fans.
Mm-hmm.
Then you got Florida State. I would say maybe it's about half Bucs, half Jaguars. So a lot of Bucs fans don't like Jameis. Honestly, a lot of Bucs fans hadn't liked Jameis since he was at Florida State because he beat the shit out of Florida. Yeah, he beat the shit out of Florida 2 years in a row, and they were terrible at the time, and he won a national championship, and they just despise him. They didn't like when the Bucs picked him. So anytime anything happens with Jameis, they're going to be all over social media, talking about Jameis and, we need to get rid of him and this and that. So he's not really ever going to have the support of that group of fans, and that makes a big part of the fan base.
Yep.
So that's something, in my opinion, that is not going to change unless they go deep in the playoffs or to a Super Bowl while Jameis is there.
Yep.
Unless he can just win consistently,
get into the playoffs
and get him to the playoffs consistently, that's not going to change. Those naysayers are always going to be there. Mm-hmm. So that's just something that is going to be there no matter what. And Jameis has just got to keep progressing and play better. I mean, as long as he's playing, somewhat conservative, I think he's playing his best football right now.
Yeah, he's playing his best football because he knows his job's on the line, his coaching staff's job's on the line. But you know what? Honestly, the defense has been playing a lot better. You can say it's the competition that they faced. But I mean, they were shutting down the Saints. They were shutting down the Saints, and they were shutting down Baltimore in the first halves of those games. They just had a late collapse. So I was just reading this, And it's funny because we were just talking about it, Deshaun Jackson being a diva. I'm going to go ahead and credit Rick Stroud for this, Tampa Bay Times. Check this out. So he wrote, Jackson said he struggled with an offense that ran through Mike Evans. Jameis Winston struggled throwing deep to Jackson. He became more frustrated as the 2017 season wore on. Interviews with coaches and players confirmed that Jackson was fined extensively for being late to meetings and sometimes fell asleep in them. He rarely took notes, and it got worse in the final months. Jackson refused to play catch with one of his coaches one day before practice and was told to sit out. Just before Christmas last year, he played cards in the locker room with his former Washington teammate, defensive tackle Chris Baker, and was late to a meeting. When told he would be fined again, Jackson erupted and kicked over a display that the Bucs receivers were using for a secret Santa gift exchange. He then became involved in a physical altercation with one of his coaches and had to be restrained by a teammate. Now, I had a theory. After I just read that, I had a theory. So the San Francisco 49ers game, right? Jameis targeted Deshaun Jackson, I think it was like 9 times or something like that. And I don't think only connected one. I don't remember the exact stat. People were saying like Jameis hits every single receiver on these routes almost every time, even in practice. And Jameis was overthrowing him and missing him. I was thinking that was on purpose. I was thinking that Jameis was really missing him on purpose just to piss him off. And I don't know. I could be way off base here, but after reading that, I don't know. I don't know. Jameis is a big team guy, He doesn't like somebody who's all about himself.
Yeah, it's definitely a possibility. But either way, when you got stuff like that going on, that guy's got to go.
That's
I know
cancerous,
you
man.
owe him money. You owe him money and whatnot, but that's a cancer to the locker room. Somebody like that
That's
is
not
not
passionate. That's not showing passion for playing football. That's showing like you're being a brat.
No, yeah, I would have traded him for a 6th-round pick yesterday.
And a bag of peanuts.
Yeah, 6th-round pick and a box of Cracker Jacks.
Like a 4-pack of Keystone Light or something.
Yeah, 4-pack of Tall Boys, and you can have Deshaun Jackson.
Oh
yeah,
God.
yeah,
oh man,
I mean,
that
and
hurts
really,
my head, dude.
especially with Godwin on the roster, we don't really even have a need for Deshaun Jackson. To be honest with you,
Godwin's missed a lot of catches lately, but still,
Jackson has passed his prime. He's not the Deshaun Jackson that played with Michael Vick in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got speed. Yeah, he's got speed. I'll give him that. But, I mean, what else does he bring to the table?
I will say that the coaching staff only uses him for speed. He's good with the comeback routes, the drags, the slants, but they don't use him like that. It's either he's running a fly or he's running a post, and that's it. And by the time he's running the post to the fly, there's pressure in Jameis's face. And yes, Jameis has missed him plenty of times, even when there was no pressure. But I mean, it's like they only take 1 or 2 deep shots to him a game, and if they don't connect, then they stop throwing it to him. So I'm not going to say it's all his fault, but that your character is one thing that we are allowed to critique. So that's all I got to say about that. Do you want to talk a little bit about this Cowboys game before we take off here?
Yeah. I'll touch on that a little bit. Yeah, it's I touched on it briefly. I feel, honestly, the way I look at it, yeah, I want us to play good. I've enjoyed the last couple of weeks, some positive signs heading into next year, and just not totally tanking down the stretch. But at this point, you're not making the playoffs. I mean, yeah, I dislike the Cowboys, but you kind of got to start looking. I mean, obviously, as those guys aren't going to tank. Like we said earlier, they're all playing for a job.
Mm-hmm.
But as a fan, I'm kind of looking at how the draft is stacking up. Like, okay, if we went out, do we lose 2 or 3 spots in the draft order if we went out, and it's kind of meaningless?
That's the thing.
Or do we lose out?
A lot of people said last year when we beat the Saints, you pretty much screwed yourself out of a chance of getting Quentin Nelson, and he would have been pretty good right now.
Yeah, that would have been great. That would have been a great pick. So, I mean, I want him to play good, yes. Do I necessarily want them to win? I don't know if I can say yes, because with their needs on the offensive line and their need at, there's not really a big time running back coming out. They would pick that early. But obviously would like them to have the highest pick possible.
Yeah.
And
I don't care if they keep
and
winning.
I want to
I
make
just
sure
want
that
the teams that are ahead of us to keep winning too.
Yeah, and I want to make sure that Dirk Cutter, loses his job too, because I don't want him to come back. So
it's a little selfish, but all right. You don't feel bad for
guy.
the millionaire?
No, I don't feel bad for that. I mean, he'll get another job somewhere.
I'll have a job in
doing
5
something.
minutes.
He'll be an offensive coordinator somewhere else, working with him and Mike Smith. Will go screw up some other franchise. He'll
probably get back to the Falcons when they fire Steve Sarkisian.
True, because that guy could get drunk at any given time and just freaking screw his whole job up.
Yeah. So the Dallas offense, man, it's not explosive. I mean, they've been winning like a lot of close games lately. I mean, they're averaging 19 points a game. Okay. 238 passing, 130 rushing. Yeah, I mean, they're not explosive offense. I mean, I was looking at the stats last week against the Colts. I think their longest play was 18 yards, or the longest passing play was 18 yards. I don't see. I mean, even with our really young secondary, I still think our D-line can do a lot of damage. And it's saying that Zach Martin is back practicing, so he might be back in it, and that's a really good thing for them. David Irving is out. Tavon Austin's questionable. Anthony Brown. Byron Jones has been playing really, really well lately. I wasn't a big fan of him coming out, and I think they had him playing safety. Since he's been a cornerback, he's been playing really, really good.
Yeah, their defense is kind of, it's up and down. A couple weeks ago they hold the Saints to 10 points. Beat the Saints 13-10, and then they come back and the defense didn't look that great against the Eagles. I mean, the Eagles, moved the ball, scored 20 plus points. But obviously, I feel like we can score some points on them. The secondary, Byron Jones played pretty well, but the secondary has kind of been a little bit more vulnerable part of that defense. The run D has been pretty solid. The rookie linebacker, Vanderlick or Vanderish or whatever his name is, he's played pretty damn good. I mean, he's a pretty good linebacker. But the thing about that's been the X factor for them the past couple weeks has been Amari Cooper.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, if you've watched them play, they don't throw a lot, but he's all they got in the passing game. He's literally all they got. So he's just broken plays off at opportune times. With the exception of last week, I mean, the Colts shut him down. I mean, they shut him out. It's 23-0.
Yeah.
But prior to that, I mean, beating the Eagles.
Yeah. So here's their past 5 games. They beat Atlanta 22-19, Washington 31-23, Saints 13-10, Eagles 29-23, and they lost 23-0 to the Colts. So they haven't beaten any team by more than 7 points. Which is something that we can't do, but
pretty much every game they've played this year has been close, except for when they blew out the Jaguars. Pretty much every game on their schedule has been within reason, within 10 points. I think one of the first, like week 3, maybe they won by like 11 points. But pretty much every game's been all their games have been close. But they got a good kicking game, and they're another one of them teams that is gonna grind it out. Ezekiel Elliott's gonna get his eventually. They're just gonna keep running him, and then he'll pop one. So, I mean, Dak's not a great quarterback. That's what they do. They'll run Zeke.
I like
and then hit
I like
Amari.
JPP. I like JPP and Carl Nassib and Vita Vea coming on late in the year. I think they're gonna have fun with Dallas's O line. Vita Vea's been playing pretty good, man. I have to give it credit when it's due.
It's at Dallas, right?
Yep, it's at Dallas, and we are 1-6 away.
I think it's going to be a close game. I mean, obviously, all their games have been close, and we've had a lot of close games. But it comes down to kicking game, most of the time. So I don't know. I feel like with our defense playing the way that they have, I feel like if we really focus on Amari Cooper, we pretty much shut the passing game down. He's pretty much all they got. I mean, they'll get it underneath every now and then to Cole Beasley.
They pretty much just got to watch for the screens. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, Amari Cooper, I watched pretty much the whole game when they played the Eagles week before last. And, man, the guy's just been a completely different player since he got traded from the Raiders. It's crazy what a change of scenery can do for some of these guys. Just being made, part of one of the focal points of the offense. He looks the same way he did when he was at Alabama.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
So
you see Mark Davis. Go ahead.
That was a guy that had a ton of drops last year. I mean, I had him on my fantasy team last year. He freaking dropped a ton of passes. Like he had a horrible year. And then in the beginning of this year, he wasn't dropping a lot of balls, but he just wasn't really. Gruden didn't really make him a focal point in the offense. And that's been. I was kind of critical. When that trade went down, I was like, dang, like you had to give him a first round pick, like. You know what I'm saying? I feel like you probably could have got him for like a second or third round pick. Why would you trade a first round pick? But and that's one thing that I like to say is, in the draft, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter where the guy's rated. If you feel like that's a guy that's going to make an immediate impact for you, he's worth the first round pick.
Yep.
Point blank period. It doesn't matter what anybody else thinks or what his supposed value is. If he's going to make an immediate impact for your team, use a first round pick. So I mean, Jerry Jones actually made a pretty good move there.
Yeah, that was one that he ended up looking good. That was one of the moves he ended up, looking good in the end. But he's had a lot of questionable ones. I mean, he gets all the credit for the Dak Prescott thing, but if it wasn't for the Broncos taking Paxton Lynch, the Cowboys would have had Paxton Lynch. So. So I mean, what is it? A broke clock is right, at least once a day or twice a day, whatever it is, Yeah, Mark Davis said he has no regrets trading Amari Cooper and Khalil Mack, even though maybe Amari Cooper isn't the same as Khalil Mack, but a lot of people are saying like they were questioning his like love for football. It's like maybe he just hated it there. But I mean, what do people expect him to say? The reporter asked him, "Do you regret it?" He's like, "Oh, I don't regret it at all." But like, what do you expect him to say? Yeah, it really sucks that I traded away 2 players that went on and instantly made other teams better. You know what I mean? But I mean,
those guys don't admit their mistakes like that.
No,
I mean, this doesn't work.
And why would they?
They never do. They don't have no reason to.
Yeah,
they don't have to answer to anybody.
Mm-hmm. This dude's like, man, I'm fixing to move a team to Vegas. I'll sell this whole team for all 6 round picks. I don't care. He doesn't care. Dude.
But I mean,
you know how I know he doesn't care? That haircut. One of the all-time great haircuts that he has had for like 20 years.
Yeah, every time I see a picture of that guy, I freaking crack up laughing.
You know he drives like an hour to get that haircut. Like he's got a specific barber that he drives to like an hour away. You drive an hour to come home looking back like that? Let's see. Well, man, I don't have much else to really get to. I'm just making sure I covered all my stuff here. Have anything else to really get at? Yeah, I'm excited. I still want them to win. Just from a fan standpoint, but at the same time, I'd like them to be. If you're going to lose, at least be competitive and get some of your younger guys, more playing time. Let's just see what you really have, because the next coaching staff might come in and decide they don't want any of these guys. You know what I mean? So why not see what you got here? And I'm kind of torn on whether Jason Light even stays or not. I think honestly he's been a pretty good GM. I think his free agency blunders are more costly than the draft picks, I would say, because a lot of the times it was a lot of money and it was like, it just doesn't work out. You bring in bad character guys, even though you say you want a good character locker room and things like that.
Yeah, it was
But I
kind of like
think,
some situations where you overpay because you have the cap room, but
yeah,
then
if
it doesn't
got
work
the,
out.
it's like we have the money, we got to spend it. I do think though. Okay, so the 2016 draft, Vernon Hargraves, Noah Spence, Roberto Aguayo. Obviously, that's been horrible. It's been very bad. This year hasn't been that great neither, because Vita Vea didn't play early. He missed training camp, but he's been playing really good. Ronald Jones hasn't played at all. MJ Stewart got hurt, but he didn't look that great. Carlton Davis has looked pretty good. But that 2016 draft, it was just a bad one. The Noah Spence pick was horrible because it's just not working out. I don't know why he's not getting on the field. I think it might have been something to do with the preseason where he's going up against fourth round, tackles that are probably driving UPS trucks right now. But I will say one thing. The Carl Nassib waiver wire pickup, I think, saved that Noah Spence pick, because Carl Nassib has been playing lights out. He's an awesome bookend to Jason Pierre-Paul. I have no idea why Cleveland let this guy go, because Emmanuel Ogbah is a decent player, but you can't tell me that you couldn't find time to get Carl Nassib and Emmanuel Ogbah on the field. You know what I mean? Carl Nassib's been playing great, or Carl Nasty.
Yeah, I think it's. I mean, and even I didn't watch the whole thing, but even on that, on their Hard Knocks, episodes. I mean, it seems like there's always a guy like that gets cut that shouldn't get cut. And they try to cut him, and they try to cut him and keep him on the practice squad and then bring him up later. And some of them guys just kind of got that if factor.
Yep.
They're gonna work hard, and especially when they get let go like that, kind of put a little chip on their shoulder. So yeah, that was his play has definitely been encouraging. That was good. That was a good pickup, but still, you don't know. Do the Glazers just clean house, and just let them all go? And I don't really have. It's kind of like you said. There's been good and bad with Jason Light, but I don't know.
I think he's pretty average with every other GM. I mean, I don't think he's that far off, except for maybe the offensive lineman. But I mean, I don't know, dude. I really think it's the coaching staff job.
Yeah, that's a definite for sure. The other thing with Jason Light though is like the trading the picks. The Revis deal and the LeGarrette Blount deal, and then
well, I don't think that was Jason Light. I think that was Mark Dominic.
Okay, yeah. You're right.
Yeah, because that was when they refused to play him. That was when they refused to let him play his own thing. They had him playing a whole bunch of zone and everything like that. I don't think that was him. Jason Light came in with Lovie Smith.
I'll never forgive Jason Light for not drafting Derwin James. Like I will forever hold that grudge against him, as long as Derwin James is playing in the NFL. Because Derwin James is going to the Pro Bowl, and Vita Vea came on at the end of the year. He seems like, he's when he got healthy, he's been getting playing time and playing pretty good. But I mean, Derwin James was my guy.
Well, they drafted Mike Evans and could have had Aaron Donald was still on the board, but I don't think anybody knew how good Aaron Donald was going to be. But sometimes it happens. But Mike Evans is a tremendous player. I wouldn't trade him now because he's just too important to this team.
Oh yeah, he's been the biggest impact player, pretty much of the franchise.
Biggest Pro Bowl snub too.
Yeah, I can't believe that.
Second leading receiver in the NFL with 2 games left. I think it's just the 5 touchdown thing. But I mean, you can't really blame Mike Evans for only having 5 touchdowns. He's not the focal point of this offense. I mean, he is to a certain extent, but there's I think 5 players with at least 600 yards of passing offense. So I mean, he's not going to get all the touchdowns. He probably doesn't get he could probably have more touchdowns if they threw a fade to him in the red zone every now and again. You know what I mean? But yeah, that's just crazy. Crazy that he got Pro Bowl snubbed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's good being on the show today. Good talking with you. We'll have to get up again after National Signing Day and talk some Florida State football.
Yes, I got plenty to talk about. Sam Howell flipping, Justin Fields may be coming, but that's another story for another day.
Yes, we'll get on that here in about a month and a half. That'll start heating up and we'll get back on that. But we'll see how it plays out Sunday, and hopefully we'll beat the Cowboys just so we don't have to hear the Cowboys fans' mouths.
Yeah. Hopefully we beat the Cowboys, and hopefully every team ahead of us wins all their games too. So that would work out well. All right, man. Well, I'll talk to you later. This is JT Westbury and James Lee signing off for the Buck Ball Podcast. Later, bro.